people with the ablation. It was really amazing. It was like they're praying the wrong thing. I don't know. Just
Well,
like
let's talk about that
you
as
should.
May.
Yeah,
Um,
I know what you mean.
but when it says that without without faith, it is what?
Impossible.
Impossible. Now, impossible means impossible, meaning that nothing outside of faith is to be in the equation to please God. So now, let's just say that the Lord will, and not only does God kind of answer his request, which was, I don't have an heir. There's no one in my house to carry on my name and my, give me a son. And then God says, okay, but, come outside and look up into the sky. Your prodigy, your progenitor go like the stars in the sky. Yeah. That much more. So he gets that promise at 75. And until, 99, 100, when it does come to pass, God does what he said he was going to do. What was that time in between? Was it God denying him, or did he commit some sin in between there that kind of delayed or, overruled God's promise? What was the time from 75 to 100? Promise given, and I mean, like he had this vision, like it was no wishful thinking on his part. He really got what we would say a word from God. And so 75, 76, 77 years old now. Okay. Abram, yes. Anything happening? No. You sure God promised you? 90 years old. Okay. Abram, weren't you promised, God was going to do this for you, give you a son? From your own loins? Are you sure? Maybe you should, check with Sarah. Sarah has a suggestion. I mean, see, all of that is temptable time. You got temptations come into, like him, like we would do, step in and kind of alleviate the situation ourselves.
Yeah.
Straighten it out, have a plan B. That makes sense. Come on, I mean, let's be reasonable. Reasonable. Look how old you are, and look how older you are getting. What are you doing? Is that empty time? That's my question.
My first thought is it makes you want to like not tell other people.
Yeah,
just
right.
keep it between you and God, just
That's
because you don't want other people to start doubting when they pray for you, like you don't want them to lose hope and then pray a different direction for you. Like, oh, have them put their house in order, or, hope, other things, because in their human mind, they give up. The other people. I'm just
yes.
saying.
Wow. Well, but then how? I hear you, and I got an example in my mind on that because, there was. So here's a situation. This person has cancer. I mean, stage 4. It was, and it's been months that they've been dealing with this. So the doctors just said, there's nothing more that we can do. Okay. Lost weight, can't eat, the whole thing. I mean, she is, physically devastated. So then there was a person to come in to pray and to anoint with oil. Now, the immediate family is not all that game for it, like, okay, it's like the proverbial, like, having done everything else, I guess we ought to pray, you know. And, but what you're saying is very interesting, because it's like saying, you know, you don't want, so we all pray, you know, we all believe God, and they don't get healed. So what does that do for their
Well,
faith?
the prayer was answered, you know, specific, the procedure was a success,
Okay,
yeah. But now,
okay.
it's like, okay, now I don't wanna tell anybody about, but now.
Gotcha, okay. But let's get back to Abram's situation. And why, you know, so he's called the what? The father of our what?
Faith.
Faith. What was it that was significant in his life that he would be, you know, entitled that title? Not that he earned it, but that,
Two events.
you know.
Two events. One is, I want you to leave and go to a place I'll show you. You just pick up things and go to a place that you don't know anything about. But you just pick up and
Okay.
that, you know, that, it's Hebrews 11:8, I believe.
So that was called, well, you know,
That's one. And
logistical. It's a logistical.
but for him to decide, he could decide, no, I'm not going to go. So it took him faith for him to say, I'm going to go. And,
Okay.
and this is what, to me, what walking with God is all about. It's God says, go there. Can you tell me more about what's going to happen when I'm there? No. I'll just
Well,
go. It's that whole principle. And then the second one is, you know, Genesis 22, when he told to go sacrifice his son. He's, okay, I'll do that.
but see, interestingly, somebody could take, and those are great examples, somebody could take and combine those two instances or in a sense, as a means of growth for him to be able to be did with Isaac. But the caveat is Isaac didn't rebuke his father.
No.
You know, Isaac didn't say, all he asked for, you know, like, okay, I see the wood and, you know, and I see everything, where's the sacrifice? You know, like, I know the math. Where, you know, like, okay, something is missing.
The Lord will provide.
Yes, but, you know, that's after you got strapped. I mean, there was some tangible, objective, you know, things going on. Like going back to Abram leaving the Ur of Chaldees. It wasn't that he saw where he was going. You know, it was that he was leaving what he had. That was the issue, I think. Because, you know, after he exited the Ur of Chaldees, he stuck around because of Daddy for 5 years. But then it was like, okay, where are you going? I don't know. I don't know. And I think it would be easier, if we would consider it, that if if God is leading me and I could tell you where he's leading me to, that's a little bit more secure than just me leaving what is obviously security and, you know, continuity. I could do this for the rest of my life. I could live in the Ur of Chaldees for the rest of my life. And you're going to leave that to go where? You know, you got it good here. You're going to go where? I don't know. That does, you know, that's like, you know, something wrong with you.
Just it's interesting because from a Hebrew perspective,
Okay, good.
like when God brought him out, I love that portion when he said, "Look at the sky," and said, "Your children are going to be more than like unnumerable, like these stars," and that he was basically telling like Abram wanted something for his own little world, like his own little microcosm of the world. Like I don't have an age in a way. Animals procreate and they don't have they seek to make more of themselves. It's like part of being a living thing is that you make more of yourself. And Abraham had that desire, but God was like bringing him higher. And the stars, for one thing, like the stars had a different meaning to the ancient world than they do to us. Like they navigated by them. It was this, they learned the seasons by them. Like you looked up at the sky, you saw this all the time, like every night, unless it was cloudy. It was like they, a lot of their sciences and those kinds of things were navigation were by the stars. This was like a big deal. Like for him to bring him out, for God to bring him out there, he was saying, you are going to play a role in my plan. Like you're going to be a father. This is a role that you play, and it's going to be the beginning of something really important and big and grow beyond the scope of your understanding and number. And I think like that, often we want what we want. We want our healing, we want our job, we don't like this and we want it out of our life, and we want to move out of this season and into this other season that we think would be better. Like these are the things that we want for us. And I think often the promise of God is always like bringing us out of that and saying, yes, it's not like I'm not going to meet that need, but let's look at the bigger picture here. Like you have a place in my plan, you have a role in my and we would say maybe, like we would say in our economy that we're training to reign.
Okay.
Like this is what's going on in this life is preparing us for a kingdom that's invisible but will one day be much more visible on the earth, and we're a part of it, and this is our role. So Abraham's role was to be a father of many nations, like a father of a nation, which would be the nation that gave birth to Messiah. Like this was not who would then unite the whole world and redeem humanity. Like this was he was a part of much more than just, I need we don't have any little ones running around the house and I want one. And I think that often, so that time period between here and there where it doesn't seem to happen, but at the same time, like he heard from God, and God said, "You're important. Like you have a role." And I think with us, like that's very important.
Well, we have what you're saying, the natural desires that we want God to bless and bring to pass. But I love this because it was the same thing with Hannah. Hannah wanted a child to take away her stigma of being barren.
Yes.
Give me a son. But then she said, I'll loan him to the Lord.
Yeah.
Okay. But and I've heard it said very well by others. It's like, so Hannah got a son, but Israel got a prophet.
Yes.
They got the man of God. So it's always the bigger picture, but I don't think that way.
Yeah.
Can I think that what you're going through presently is working together? Romans 8:28, but I don't see that. I just want to be alleviated of the situation. So Abram didn't get Isaac at 75, but he did get him at 100. But my question is, what were those 25 years? What were those 25 years to the Lord?
From Abraham's perspective, it was 1 Peter 1:7. It was the testing, the trying of your faith is more precious than gold.
again, going back to Hebrews 11:6.
But so he had to fail in order to succeed. That, there were a number of cases, like, for instance, when he ended up going to Egypt and Pharaoh wanted to take Sarah as his, and he basically didn't tell the truth. That there were these challenges through this period of time, that some of them he succeeded in, other ones he didn't.
And
Including
take away
Ishmael.
the promise?
Including Ishmael.
Yeah.
I mean,
How can we say it? Did that disavow God's promise?
No, the gifts.
But we think that way.
Romans 11:29, the gifts and the calling of God
I agree.
are irrevocable.
And that is why blessing, I will bless you. But I'm not blessed right now, God. I mean, I got financial problems. I got health problems. I got, my second cousin is like driving me up a wall. See, those are the challenges to the faith promise that come. And like you were saying, the trial of my faith to believe the promise. I believe the promise, God. Okay, yes, I believe the promise. Hallelujah. And then the trial comes against that promise, tempting me to abandon ship, tempting me to
Take
take natural.
matters into my own hands
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I have a lady that I minister to. She's older. She's it's interesting. I don't want to
True.
I don't think anybody will know who this person is, but when you're ministering to someone and they're a little hyper spiritual in some ways, so like she's a person who didn't take care of her health because she was insistent that she was just going to believe God for certain things.
Okay, gotcha.
So she went blind because she wouldn't take blood pressure medicine because it was and as much as I would pray with her and say, well, you should go to the doctor, and this is part of our being a steward, and
Okay.
is actually taking care of ourselves, and you saying, I believe God for my blood pressure is wonderful. I'm sure it pleases God that you have such great faith in him, but at the same time, he's invested a stewardship to us, and you have high blood pressure, maybe it would be a good idea to take the medicine, but she wouldn't, and she went blind, and now she's insistent that God has given her a promise that he's going to restore her eyesight.
Okay, I hear you.
And so, and I, as a man of faith, am never going to tell her that's not going to happen.
That's right, that's right.
I'm never going to say that, because there's in me, there's this, well, okay, so what if she's a little hyper spiritual, and so what if this is her fault that this happened, or to whatever degree, or she brought this on herself, or whatever. I think as a human being, because I don't know, and God could do that. God might do that. And here's this woman who believes that he will, with everything, every conversation we have, she brings it up. And it's been years. We're talking about 75
yeah,
to
right.
we're talking 10 years.
Okay.
So in my mind, I talk to her, and it's a challenge for me.
I hear you. Yeah.
Because, I'm a shepherd, and she's a person, and I want her to have a good life, not just, I want to direct people towards sound counsel. Sound spiritual counsel, but also sound counsel for her life. And yet there's this person who's just been I believe God, I believe God, I believe God. And I'm just thinking, God help me, that I would not be so practical.
To be in
because-
the way of her faith.
Right. I don't want to be an obstacle to this woman, At the same time, I'm I can't say, well, yeah, don't take the pills. Yeah, I'm going to,
You don't have that liberty.
No, I don't have
Yeah,
that
I
liberty.
know.
And you can imagine Sarah also, like, the guy, he's my husband, I love him, he needs an heir.
Wow.
Like, here's this great man, but why is he great? He's great because he believes God. He's great because he's lived a life of, okay, you say leave everything, I'll leave everything. And then God made him into a great man. Like, he became a great man because he was believing. And then he became a great man when he was humbled because he lied, and he had to get right about it, and he did, and he repented, and he became a great man. So she's thinking, I want to help this great man. But the bottom line is, he's a great man because he believes God. Like this is the foundation of who he is. And I think in our lives, it's much like that. You know,
it's got to be like that.
And I frankly think this woman who's blind because of her own, what I would label as hyper-spirituality.
Okay, I hear you.
Like,
Wrong choice.
and yet I consistently believes God, and every time I talk to her, she believes God, and every time she has a scripture in her mind, she's got life. Practically her life, I could look at it and it would be better if you were just a bit more practical. Do you know what I mean? You might still be seeing right now.
Right.
Instead of believing God for your blindness, I fully expect that I may get a call from her going, Pastor Allen, you won't believe what happened this morning.
I see you.
You know, and because he's functioning in a dynamic that is against the flow of certain aspects of natural life.
True. And it should be.
And this is our calling, is to function in this dynamic that is against the flow of the natural. And yet at the same time, like, I lock my car and I take my medicine.
Exactly.
And yet if I don't lock my car and I don't take my medicine, but I believe God, which is greater?
Well, here's
And I think in the grand scheme of things, Abraham's testimony is Abraham's life was great.
Yes. Wow.
And that's why he's the father of our faith. And that's what made him a great man, because he, you know, if you were to ask him at 94, who's going to take out over the, like, look at what you've done here. He goes, oh, no, God's got that covered. And you'd be like, well, what are you talking about? Maybe you should figure out some person, and you're shaking your head a little bit because you're kind of like, but yet at the same time, believe God have something that the world doesn't have.
True.
And they suffer a little more.
True.
Because of it. And they don't, they are preserved in heavenly places, and one day we're going to reign. One day Jesus is going to come back.
And it is as he says that it would be.
And this blind lady, probably she's going to be like,
I'll be telling you
she'll be higher in the kingdom than I am. Because she lived her life by faith.
Well,
or whatever that, and I'll be happy she is.
Yeah,
because
that's right.
Isn't there another side to that equation though too, that she's like imposing her will on God, saying, I'm expecting you're going to do this for me.
Absolutely.
And she's not saying,
which is
but
what
I'm willing to
hyper-spirituality
accept.
is.
I'm willing
Yeah.
to
My
accept
question is,
being
does she complain?
blind the rest of my
Do
life.
you get a sense of
Yeah,
her,
I know it. It's the
That's the other side of the equation.
Yeah. Well, no, this is the thing. Like, of course, she's suffering because of her situation. She's not unrealistic.
but she's not
But
questioning.
at the same time, when I speak to her, she's like, God is going to heal. God is going to heal me.
No
guys."
question.
Like, and I know part of it is that she tells that to other people, and they're like, okay, whatever, like,
Yeah,
you
which
know,
is going
but,
back to what you were saying.
and she can say that to me because she knows that I'm a believer, and that I'm a believing believer,
yeah.
and that, like, that's a we have a common ground. Like, we both know the same God. We know what God is capable of doing.
There's
And
agreement.
so, like, there's an agreement on that level, even though I'm the guy who told her to take your medicine. Do you know
That's
what I
right,
mean?
that's right.
Like, and she didn't. But, and I agree, like the danger of my life is that I would be hyper spiritual, that I would impose my will upon God, and I would force him. I would claim that he's going to do things that I just plain don't want to do, or I don't want to operate in this certain way. I don't want to be responsible for my finances and actually go out and get a job. So I just say, God will pay my rent. Like, and is that right for me to do? Like, or is that, a great example? Or is that me truly functioning in faith? No, it's not. It's, but yet there are when I am functioning in faith, it isn't going to look that much different. Like, it's still going to be abnormal to anyone who isn't functioning by faith.
True.
Like, they're going to look at what I said, and they're going to be like,
Sight folks.
that is a really,
don't accept the faith folks. They never will.
no, and they can't
That's correct.
because it pushes them to a place where it looks dangerous, because it is.
Well, you're looking at the sovereignty
know?
of God here. Isn't that the real issue? Is
Yeah.
Psalm 115, verse 3, God does whatever he pleases.
Yeah,
And the question that each one of us has to ask ourselves, am I okay with that? Am I okay, if I'm this woman, am I okay being blind the rest of my life? Is that still the plan, the great plan and purpose and love of God? Will I accept that on his terms? Or am I going to continue to pray?
Huge. I'm so
Yeah.
glad we're talking about this.
Yeah.
Because in the situation I'm familiar with, God would be glorified if this woman got healed of cancer.
yeah,
I mean, that would be like, wow.
yeah,
But signs are very difficult because signs don't convert. Signs don't regenerate.
right.
Still have the. I was reading about Hezekiah, and so he's got this disease, and the prophet of God comes and says, hey, get your house in order, you're going to die. And he turns his head to the wall and weeps and cries out to God. And God sends Isaiah and he says, I heard your prayer and seen your tears. I'm going to give you 15 more years.
Yeah.
But the calamity, the judgment on your children, okay? And they're going to become eunuchs and be carried off into captivity. I mean, like some kind of horrific kind of
Yeah.
scenario. And you know what Hezekiah says? In essence, I'm summarizing, but he says, that's okay, it won't happen in my time. I got 15 more years to be alive on the planet.
Yeah,
And to be king.
And it was like what you were saying, Pastor, like the desire for a good life here in time, okay, is very strong.
yeah,
It's very strong. And I can't easily extrapolate out and say, well, what I'm going through right now is going to give me promotion in eternity, promotion in heaven. I don't know about that. I don't know about that as much as I know about this.
yeah,
And if God was really blessing me or in my life, he would take care of this and still give me that, It was like, but this is a very, very weighty, and that's why I asked you about, because there are those who have physical infirmities or trouble, problems, issues, and they say that they're believing God, but they're complaining to men.
yeah,
Like, hey, I'm in a jam, I got some problems.
or it's just, yeah, they're avoiding something.
Wow.
Can I
They're
read an
avoiding something,
illustration?
and they're not, and so it's challenging to me, because it's, it's challenging to all of us. It's like I want to live a life of faith, and yet I want to face my fears, and I want to do the things. Like the aversion that I have,
Yes.
like spurs me on to go, okay, like,
Interesting.
this is not me living by faith. This is not me. Who's the master? Is God the master of my life, or is this thing mastering me? You know, like, and so like then I'm like, okay, God, like, really, I want you to do that, but what do you have me? Really, do you want me to do that? If that's what you like, I'll face up to that. I'll walk into that situation if that's what you have me do. And it's like in those moments I find that I have liberty. Like there's freedom. I'm not like in the bondage of my situation.
Largely.
You know, because I need to be a steward. I need to be a responsible person, and yet I need to be a person walking by faith. And there's a way to do both. There's a way to live this way, you know, because that doesn't glorify Him.
But I think
You
the
know?
whole situation will help you with counsel with other people, because there's going to
Yeah.
be an outcome. Because I had the same thing happen, and the woman died.
Yeah,
And I felt like her decision was because she's poor, you know, like she didn't have the resources to do all the medical care. And so then I was faced in another situation with another lady, and I just said, make sure we're not telling God what to do. Like,
Yeah.
we got to hear from God what He wants to do. And I kind of picking up on that now, like I'm being refreshed in that, listening to you all.
yeah,
But then I got the same thing. I have the same disease that woman had.
yeah.
So it's like, decision making was really hard. It was just like, and what do I say? I'm humbled. I don't have anything to say,
Yeah,
you know, because it's like, it took her life, and I'm trying to make sure it doesn't take mine.
yeah,
And where's God in all of this? It's like, I just know I'm just walking, like God helps me stand. But my thoughts are all over the place sometimes, because it's like, and now I have to find a faith for my husband too. So I do hear you say, this is the life I want. And I think I'm telling God that, you know? And it's like, I need God, that's all, I just need Him.
yeah.
And hopefully reveal Christ to other people, but I have to admit that we have to make sure we're hearing from God every
Yeah.
day to day.
Yeah,
And then it's not my will, it's God's will at the end. And I think that's the process that Abraham had to go through, because he became, the people group was the object, you know, like
True.
the race, the Jewish race.
Here's a story that maybe illustrates what we're talking about. In the mid-1800s, a man known as Great Blondin attempted to cross Niagara Falls on a tightrope. 5,000 people gathered to watch. In the middle of the walk, Blondin suddenly stopped, backflipped into the air, landed on the rope, and then continued safely to the other side. Blondin would cross the falls many more times, once blindfolded, once carrying a stove, once in chains, and once on a bicycle.
Never heard of the guy.
One time, this is in the,
And you're born.
one time he showed up with a wheelbarrow. Blondin turned to the crowd and shouted, "Who believes that I can cross pushing the wheelbarrow?" Every hand in the crowd went up. And Blondin pointed at one man. "Do you believe that I can do it?" he asked. "Yes, I believe you can," said the man. "Are you sure?" said Blondin. "Yes," said the man, "absolutely certain." "Yes," and Blondin said, "Absolutely certain?" "Yes, absolutely certain." "Thank you," said Blondin. "Then, sir, get into the wheelbarrow."
Well,
If you're gonna go, I mean, in other words,
Yes.
are you, how far are you willing to go on this ride? Are you all in, or are you you know?
I would say, and that's interesting, because we don't,
Yeah.
That's a true story, huh?
Yeah, oh, it is, yeah.
I mean, but the guy's not famous enough. No, I've never, I've heard of
I gotta go to work.
Houdini and,
Yeah,
these
yeah,
other guys, Blondin.
That offended everybody.
The point is, how far are we willing to go in our faith? I mean,
I've seen you backflip, I've seen you chained, I've seen you blindfolded.
Oh,
Gotta go on the other side of the cook. Yeah, right. Go fix lunch over there. If you all want to eat, you gotta come across the.
Hey, that guy's strong.
Right.
Oh, he's well balanced. He's pretty
Cast iron stove.
strong.
Yeah, if he could walk, I could walk, flat ground with a stove. But I've never seen him do a wheel. That would be my answer.
so there's still doubt there, huh? Because
Yeah, because I'm
it didn't do it before, therefore,
not
isn't
wheel.
that what faith is all about? It says, I can trust God even though he hasn't proved it to me. Simply on the basis,
Wow. Well,
he
then
said it.
I would say. But wait a minute. Yeah, he has proven his answers to promises.
Correct.
And that's all he gives us. He doesn't change up, like 3-loaf clover, or anything. He doesn't change up the conditions of what he's expressed. He's expressed that out of his character and out of his love. And see, also, I really come to know what he is like. And I think for Abram, it was that to get to the place where he was going to offer Isaac, it wasn't because he just had a bald-faced promise, but that he grew in knowing the person who gave him the promise. And that's true for us too.
Well, I think Hebrews 11:19 says that he did it because he believed that God would have to raise him from the dead.
Yeah, so
So he was believing in the
guy?
promise to that degree. That I'm believing all the way. I'm
Well,
believing that,
the God that I know can do that.
yeah, and will do that.
And, that's true too. The proverbial saying, God is able. Yes, he is. He's able.
Is he
Question
willing?
Am I willing? No,
Yeah.
I'm willing to
Yeah.
believe the ability of God. But,
And that issue then starts, I think, Abraham, I think, is our greatest example of somebody who believed in the impossible. He believed the impossible, that God is the God of the impossible.
Yeah.
And that's where our faith needs to reside, in the place where we believe that our situation, cancer, he can solve that problem anytime he wishes, if he so decides. If he doesn't, okay, I'm on board with that too. But
well, okay.
but I'm going to believe that.
Why would you get on board with that? Because I hear you. So God, you're not healing me, or I don't get healed in this world. At some point, that is a place of absolute trust and absolute rest.
Yep,
It doesn't come
he's
because
called us to that place.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, I know when I'm not there. I know, like, I'm anxious, I'm worried, I'm concerned, all that, and so what you're describing, I believe, I think we all believe, is a real place in the Lord.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't know how to get there. So maybe the situation is the steps towards that place. And it is my leaving the earth called these, what I understand, what I want, what I desire, for God to do, to an unknown place. Well, it's known, but I don't know how to get there.
Well, and okay, so every time Abraham left his tent after dark and looked up,
Okay, that's good, yeah.
It's a
like,
reminder of the promise, right?
like he looks up at the stars of the sky and he goes, 1,004, 1,050, there are just way too many. Like,
Yeah, right.
like in a sense, this is my life, like that. Like I'm the promise God is giving me is that I'm a part of something going on with him that's as important as creation is. That's like as, so like that, like that God knows me, cares about me, has like the promise to, like God made me a promise, and I can look at the contents of the promise and go like, okay, he said he would do this thing, and I want this thing, but God spoke to me and talked to me, and gave a commitment to me, like that is really my identity. I'm the guy who God spoke to, I'm the guy who God speaks to, who, and I may get it wrong, I may not understand, fully the, and I may change it, I may, because I'm very, my memory, there are times when I look back and try to remember certain things and go, I'm not totally sure what, this story that I told, all of the, and I know my memory is plastic, I can, it can change based on, but yet it's
The
there
microphones
are
pick up
times
noise over everything.
where I can just go out and I just get on my knees and I go, I am in awe that that presence of God in my life. I'll remember a worship time where I just knew the presence of God.
Yeah.
And I knew that I was among a group of people that knew, and we were all singing, and God was, and and there are the times when I get on my knees and I just remember that sense, that feeling that I'm in this.
Well, when you
and
said
so,
that Abraham looked up, and this is the thing, being in the body, because what are we doing? We're reminding, and our recollection and our own testimony affirms again the truth, and or is against us understanding our significance to God. So I'm just an insignificant, who would pay, God doesn't want to pay attention. I don't hardly pay attention to myself. You know what I'm saying? It's this pressure of smallness in ourselves, but in the eyes of Jesus Christ, we are sons, we are heirs. And we understand that theologically, but I need to be reminded about that. And so Abram pulling back the curtain of his tent, looking up and saying, that's the one who made those stars spoke to me.
Yeah.
Who am I? I mean,
Here's something that goes with it. I just thought of this. When Abraham goes out from the early Chaldees, and he's just got God. Now it's just him and God. So, what did he lose? He lost his own godness. He couldn't be God anymore. I mean, and that's what has to happen for the relationship to be established on the right grounds. I can't be God anymore. I have to lose my total godness, and to be with God. That's what Christian life is. Christian life is a walk before God. He's God. I'm not God.
Yeah.
He's God completely, and that relationship is what you just said. It's a relationship of being loved. I'm a son. I'm esteemed, not because I have great analytical skills, or I can, turn water into wine, or do anything like that. Not because I have any powers of my own.
wow.
It's simply because I am who I am by the grace of God.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful thing to put my godhood aside, and finally, quit taking it up again and quit trying to figure everything out or knowing how to do it or how it's supposed to work. None of that stuff has to happen.
Wow.
I'm just yakking here a little bit. I don't have to figure one stinking thing out. Faith is the contrast to that. I mean, in my mind,
Wow.
you know, like Corey, somebody wrote me this thing this morning, Corey Ten Boom said, if you if you're doing tomorrow today, you're destroying today or something like that. I can't remember. You know, tomorrow is another day, you know. So tomorrow, you know, what's going to happen tomorrow? I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. All I know is I'm going to meet God in the morning, and I'm going to.
So,
Yeah.
By the
So,
same means.
Yeah, so, and it's all about seeking. And, you know, that's Taylor made this statement. He said, God is either Lord of all, or he is not Lord at all.
Yes.
Yeah, so are we all in on that, or are we going to kind of just pick and choose when he's going to be Lord and
No,
when
it's
he's not
gotta
going to be
be,
Lord?
Pastor, it's gotta be every, this is what Pastor Steve is saying, it's gotta be every day. And okay, so we wake up today, and we're gonna believe God today. Thinking about tomorrow, I could, and I often do, but what does that produce in me? Anxiety, because it's so uncertain.
The unknown.
But if I'm right here right now, believing that God is my sufficiency, you know, for the next, 14 hours of this 4-hour period of time, I have rest, I have peace, I have purpose, and straighten out, like what I'm gonna do with this 24-hour slot, I kind of had a funny consideration recently, and I said, as I was getting dressed in the morning, I was saying, Joe Biden's putting his pants on this morning too, right along with me, But what does he have? So what he has to do, he has to do what I have, but my doing has to be unto the Lord. There's an absoluteness to my daily life, and can I break it down to a daily? Because in my mind, I like to plan ahead. I like to, have things in place and purpose. Like, why would I? We say it